Hey, how's it going, friends? Good afternoon. So, if you want to get your chess set or you've already bought one and you live in a coastal or tropical area, I'm going to tell you here the truth about your chess set. I'll tell you which one I recommend, also from my own experience, so you won't have any problems, it won't crack, and it'll last you for many years. I'm simply going to recommend that you buy lacquered pieces. If you're in a tropical area, if your temperatures pretty much all year round range from 30 to 35, even 37 degrees Celsius, and you have a relative humidity of up to 80%, because yes, that's how it is. For example, here in Mexico, in the state of Tabasco, Campeche, all of the southeast, those are the temperatures we have here in Mexico. Here, I'm in Mexico City, so that's why I hardly have any lacquered pieces. But yes, in that case, that's when a luxury lacquered piece will be useful to you, and I'll explain why. In this case, here I have a regular ebony piece, it's not lacquered. If you want to order it lacquered, just at this moment, I can personally recommend, from my own experience, two stores, Royal Chessmall and chessbazaar.com. They're the ones that have lacquered pieces, the best nitrocellulose lacquers, which allow for very slow air exchange so your piece doesn't swell or crack, okay? So, it's recommended that they be lacquered. Likewise, lacquered boards are also recommended so they're protected. As long as this is important, I want to emphasize this. If you're in a tropical climate only, where temperatures are above 30 and below 42 degrees, make a note of that if you want, and relative humidity is up to a maximum of 80, even, and a minimum of 55. Generally speaking, I'm going to give you a very real fact about a tropical area. Temperatures of 37, 38 degrees Celsius and a relative humidity of 72. Nothing will happen to them. You don't need air conditioning, and I'll also explain why. Lacquered pieces, here you have one, you can clearly see the difference, you can see the shine, although obviously it looks darker because it's aged. I've already shown it in other sets, other videos. What this lacquer protection is going to do is, the following. I'll explain it to you in a moment. What woods are you going to use? I only recommend 3 types of wood: lacquered boxwood, lacquered padauk, or as it's commonly called, wood rosewood, or commercially wood rosewood, but in reality it's African padauk and the famous ebony. Okay. You can also use it in tropical climates as long as it's lacquered. All these pieces, as long as they're lacquered. These two, in this case, are indeed lacquered. So, who's going to provide them lacquered to your liking? In this case, only chessbazaar.com. It's the only place where you can choose if you want them lacquered, whether it's black pieces, white pieces, padauk pieces, ebony pieces, or boxwood pieces. House of Staunton also has them, but, that depends on the set. And I also recommend you get the board lacquered. Why? Now, let me quickly explain why. But keep in mind, this is only for tropical climates, because you need to have a minimum humidity of 55% and a minimum temperature of 30 degrees so that your lacquer doesn't get damaged. What happens if the temperature drops? Sorry, I mean if the temperature rises and the humidity drops. What will happen is that the moisture inside, because it does have internal moisture, will start to come out, it will try to escape. And if there's less vapor outside, then the moisture will come out both because of the temperature, since the humidity inside will evaporate, but also because of an external humidity gradient, since there isn't enough humidity outside. If it drops below, let me tell you the limit, below 40% humidity, it's no longer a tropical climate, and that's when your piece can get ruined. The internal moisture will quickly try to escape as vapor, but the lacquer will block it, so there will be a slight diffusion outward, from inside to outside. The vapor will start to diffuse slowly, but that causes the piece to contract, which is what I mentioned in the previous videos. And if you have a lacquer, the lacquer will act like a kind of armor that tries to keep it in that fixed position, and what will happen first is that the lacquer will start to crack. Second, it will start to develop fissures. That happens if the humidity drops and if the temperature also rises. That's why, here's the key, high temperature, high humidity, nothing will happen to you, as long as it's above 40, at least 40% relative humidity. Now, what will happen if it's the opposite, if it's cold and you have a lot of humidity? Well, if it's cold and you have a lot of humidity, what will happen is that it will condense and swell as well. The lacquer does work as a protective layer, but only so that the exchange between the moisture coming in and the moisture going out happens as slowly as possible. But if you have a drier environment, below 40% relative humidity, and an average temperature like the one I have here right now, which is 27 and 55, I'm at an acceptable limit so that this lacquer still doesn't suffer any damage. So, for tropical areas, yes. That's the function that I wanted to tell you about regarding lacquering and where it is actually acceptable. That's what you really need to remember. And finally, just to wrap up this video, what I do recommend is that you only buy them, like I told you at chessbazaar.com, those lacquers for ebony and for padauk, because from other stores, as far as I have based on my own experience searching, no, I haven't been able to find them. So, if you live in a tropical area and you have air conditioning, be very careful. Those conditions are no longer going to be tropical, and this applies not only to lacquered woods, but also to UN lacquered ones. What air conditioning does is blow out dry air because it condenses, obviously. It pulls in humid and warm air. That moisture condenses. It's like a dehumidifier. That's why the air conditioner drips. It's drying out the air and blowing it back at you cold. So it's going to send you cold but dry air. That will definitely also affect lacquered pieces, for the reason I mentioned before, because this acts like a structure that wants to keep the piece in its exact shape, but when there's less humidity outside, the moisture inside wants to escape, the piece wants to contract, but the lacquer doesn't allow it. It cracks, it breaks, and then you get a chain reaction where the lacquer peels off and the piece itself breaks along a crack. So if you're going to use air conditioning, of course, you can use it. What should you do? The best recommendation is to use a small humidifier with a capacity of 500 milliliters per hour of evaporation. Place it next to your set, preferably no more than a meter away, so that your hygrometer, if you have one, will read around 80 or 85% relative humidity. Don't freak out, it doesn't mean it's too much. What it means is that the air is very cold, so it holds less water, but the relative humidity is higher because of that. I don't want to get into strictly technical physico-chemical topics right now, but trust me on this. What you need to do is, well, have a hygrometer that costs no more than $10, and if you keep the relative humidity here, not like this, but showing 80 and 17 or 20 degrees because of the air conditioning, you'll be in perfect condition. Nothing at all will happen to you. So, friends, for those of you who are thinking about buying a set like this, if you live on the coast, if you live right in front of the sea, yes, you do need to take care of it because of the salt, but don't worry, just ask for the lacquered ones, simply lacquered, and preferably from chessbazaar.com so you can get these beautiful pieces in these woods, ebony and padauk, which are so sought after in the lacquered version, because up to now there's no other store where I can specifically request them lacquered if I want. That's all, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.